Welcome to the Pitcher Nail Down. I'm Jason Gilbo at JGilbo11, looking at some pitching options for DraftKings at FanDuel tonight. First game back from the break. It's 7:05 start time, all 15 games. Every team's in play. Got some of the aces that kind of pitched during the break. Will be starting over the next few days. For the most part, I mean, we got our decent names. It's not as top heavy as we kind of expected after the break, but overall, I mean, got some good names here. Jacob DeGrom pitching, in City Field, which is always a bonus for him. We'll talk about him first. He's the first guy that, really jumped off the page as kind of the one that I trust a lot, especially when at home. Cash games, he's got the GPP upside that you want, good floor, a very high ceiling. And you kind of look at this Colorado offense, I mean, away from Coors, haven't been good, 24th in WOBA. They're dead last in ISO. When they get away from home and their hard contacts below 30%. So this is a team that, you can definitely target against, less than 30% hard contact rate, as I mentioned, strikeout rate over 23%. Even against righties this year, I mean, both home and away, 17th in WOBA, the rate around Oakland, Miami, and have a lesser ISO, strikeout rate right around 22%. So, there is some strikeouts to be had here with DeGrom. I mean, that's kind of been what he's been up to this year. It's taken a pretty steep climb. 14.2% swinging strike rate. That's, tops on the slate. 28.4% strikeout rate. DeGrom's been much better at home, 269 WOBA compared to 324 WOBA on the road. Away from home, he's been giving up the home runs. He's been a little bit unlucky in that department, but that should kind of help out and do for some positive regression as the season goes on. But look at DeGrom, I mean, not a huge home favorite. He's minus 140. Colorado, obviously, 3.75. But in terms of the slate, I mean, there's not a lot of monster favorites in this one. You got a couple. I mean, Houston's a pretty big favorite at home. Seattle's a decent road favorite. Washington is as well. But, not really tremendously looking at those arms outside of really, Charlie Morton, who we'll talk about in a little bit. But, there isn't one of those minus 220, minus 250 favorites pitching at home tonight. So I think DeGrom's kind of closest bet to that to kind of be that safe option. John Gray, on the other hand, good leverage GPP play. He does have the strikeout upside, good stuff. He's a cheap price, but I'm not going to be diving too deep into him. But he's just kind of one of those ones that just missed the cut for a GPP option. But it is a cheap one to consider. Yeah, like I said, DeGrom, obviously a top option. Weather's a little bit iffy in this one. You're going to have some delay concerns. Keep tabs on that one. Obviously, it's only 1 o'clock Eastern time, so things do change. We could see a little bit of a break, maybe a delayed start and kind of get the clear to go from there on out, so that will definitely help. But definitely keep tabs there. Carlos Carrasco, he's the next one. He's been a guy who's just been kind of at home, he's been a little bit rough. 346 WOBA allowed. Obviously had that awful start against Texas. But 239 WOBA away from home this year. I don't know what it is, but strikeout rate's the same. Everything looks the same, but just outside of just allowing much more base runners. So Carrasco, 27.5% strikeout rate this year, 6.5% walk rate. He has 35 strikeouts over his last 4 starts. That includes the Texas start where he allowed 8 earned runs. He also had 7 strikeouts in that one. He gets an Oakland team tonight that strikes out 25% of the time against righties. They're a real boomer bust team. I know some nights they have some good outings at home, but they do have a 197 ISO against righties. Carrasco doesn't have severe splits against lefties, holding him to under 320 WOBA, but obviously, they do have some power from the left side, but the strikeouts are still there. Carrasco faced him back in late May, allowed 200 runs over 7 innings. He struck out 7. You want a little bit more than that on a site like DraftKings where he's 12-1 tonight. FanDuel, you got a really good discount from DeGrom and Carrasco. DeGrom's 10-9 on FanDuel, Carrasco 9-5 on FanDuel. It's a really good bargain. Definitely an elite play on the board. Like him quite a bit. He's got that upside, but like I said, you're getting a really good bargain there on FanDuel. I think that's kind of where I'm going to be playing him a little bit more. I might be diving down a little bit in DraftKings to kind of find some options, but he's definitely got some really high upside. Could possibly even be one of the highest scoring pitchers on the slate. So moving elsewhere, you got a couple guys in the mid range between the James Paxton's up there. I don't love the matchup. I love Paxton. He's missing a ton of bats. He's a little bit overpriced. I was kind of hoping to see him dropped a little bit, maybe in the 9K range or 9,000 or so, 8,500, 88 on DraftKings again. So I'm not completely in love with him tonight. I do think he's in good shape to get a win, probably a quality start as well. But I might be looking elsewhere, a little bit better spots at similar price tags and a little bit cheaper. Johnny Cueto is one of those guys that I kind of like tonight. And, I'm not going to say he's been good because he's definitely just been pretty much average. But we can get away with using average right-handers, especially average right-handers that do have a track record like Johnny Cueto. So 9K on FanDuel. I have a little bit of an issue just not going with Carrasco for 500 more, who has shown the huge strikeout upside and gets also a team that strikes out just as much as the Padres do. So, Cueto, Carrasco both on the road. But when you look at DraftKings, 8,900, that's kind of what we're looking at here. That's the big discount. Definitely worthy of an SP2, SP1 in tournaments. I think he's a guy who can end up and kind of get around that 6 or 7 strikeout range, even though he hasn't really been that of late. So you look away, he hasn't surpassed for 5 strikeouts since June 3rd against the Phillies. But San Diego, 29th in WOBA, 26.1% strikeout rate. Cueto's still missing bats, 10.5% swinging strike rate. But like I said, FIP, XFIP, Sierra all kind of in line with his mid-4 ERA. Hard contact rate is up as well. But San Diego, in Petco Park, 29th in WOBA against righties. Cueto's not a huge favorite, but like I said, it's just the matchup that kind of makes him a little bit of a better option on tonight's slate. I think the pricing helps as well because usually, Cueto we'd be looking at maybe a 10-8 price tag on DraftKings, upper 9s, on FanDuel. So we get that discount tonight, and I don't mind him. Moving down, Jake Faria, that's a guy who's been phenomenal since coming into the league. I love what he's seen. Mike Trout is back for the Angels tonight, but this is still a bottom half offense with or without Mike Trout. They performed a little bit better. They don't strike out a ton, but Various just still has really good swing and miss stuff. 11.7% swinging strike rate this year. 24% strikeout rate. That ranks 7th best on the slate. He's yet to allow more than 3 earned runs in a start. He's only allowed 1 earned run in each of his first 4 games, so or each of his first 4 starts. He's been really strong. The strikeouts have been there. They weren't really against the Red Sox, who don't strike out a ton, but I can definitely see a guy who can get around 5, 6 strikeouts tonight and kind of pitch deeper into this game as well. So, looking at a pretty low total out there, Los Angeles. It's a pick 'em basically. It's a guy I probably won't go too much into cash games, but I think GPPs are going to garner some lower ownership with him. I don't mind him as SP2. On FanDuel, once again, Cueto $500 more, Carrasco $1,000 more. Those guys have a higher GPP upside with the strikeouts. I don't know how much I'm in love with him on FanDuel. I think DraftKings and 2-pitcher sites is where I'd be looking to use him more. I think he's kind of off my radar a bit on FanDuel. Moving down the list, Charlie Morton. This guy's been, strong, with the strikeout rate this year. 10% swinging strike rate, 25% strikeout rate. The walks are a bit of an issue, 9%. Ground ball rate, strong, 50%. I do expect him to be a little bit, better in terms of allowing the long ball going forward with those numbers. Morton's pretty cheap, 6,900 on DraftKings, 7,700 on FanDuel. It's a -165 home favorite. Minnesota offense, this is kind of what we're talking about. Morton's developed a little bit of a reverse split this year. And he's going to face actually a Minnesota lineup with about 5 or 6 lefties. Obviously he's going to see Miguel Sano, Brian Dozier, Byron Buxton, but those are high strikeout guys as well. So look at Minnesota, 22.3% strikeout rate against righties. There's a lot of potential for the strikeout upside here. You look at this team, Minnesota's kind of cooled off a bit. Morton, once again, this is a guy before the DL trip. I want to see another start out of him. Went 6 innings, allowed 1 earned run against Toronto. But like I said, he's just kind of one of those guys. He's about a strikeout per inning guy. Morton's better off at home, allowing a 314 WOBA compared to 350 on the road. As I mentioned, I mean, lefties, in the past he's struggled with them, but this year holding him to 281 WOBA, the strikeout rate's up over 25%, 367 WOBA to righties. That's the concern. But, looking at this line, it's about 3 right-handers that he'll have to get around. The rest are lefties, so if those numbers can stay put, he'll have a decent outing tonight. So I think in terms of the cheap guy, I don't mind. As far as everyone else goes on this slate, I mean, you had Justin Verlander. He was a guy who, I was considering, but tough numbers against Toronto. He does have a decent strikeout rate against them, but I don't know if this is a spot to use him. It is a heavy right-handed lineup, which is a bonus, but at that price, it's just more of a multiple lineup type thing. Outside of that, I mean, Sonny Gray's been pitching really well. I like his form. Be curious to see, him against this Cleveland lineup. I think he's a sneaky GPP option on the other side, just given the fact that he has pitched really well in Cleveland on the road, an offense that kind of simmers down a little bit. So he's in play. Dan Straley, just not the spot to use him tonight, even with how solid he's been this year. Drew Pomeranz, Gio Gonzalez, Taiwan Walker, Garrett Cole. These are all spots where I'm just not really considering them, even though they have the name value. I think there's kind of better options you can go with tonight. So let's wrap things up. You can enter our day, fantasycafe.com. Check out our tools and content.